Hey everybody, I'm going to quickly show you today how to fix a trampoline spring that has become detached here. And what you can see, and maybe this has happened to you, is that this little tag here breaks. And so this little connector that is attached to the spring, like on that one, has pulled out. And so what happens is a lot of times you think that is not going to be fixable, but it's actually pretty easy to fix. And I'm just going to show you a couple of things to do here to make that work again. So what you're going to need is, at least what I use, is I use a speed awl. They're about, I don't know, $30. They come with wax string. And so the string has wax into it, so it's going to be pretty good for weatherproofing. I just use a razor blade as well, or a box cutter, just to cut the string, because like I said, it is pretty strong stuff. And you'll notice here is what they have like multiple strings going across. So they have 1, 2, 3, 4, and eventually as the kids jump on it, or dads jump on it, because we're heavier, we put a little bit more wear and stress on it, and so those strings start to break apart. And so what we want to do is we want to reattach this so we can hook our spring to it. But if you just tried using like a needle and thread, you're going to notice that doesn't work at all. It's really hard to push it through, and that's where this here is going to come into play. So if you've never used one before, basically it just has a needle with this thread that comes through it. We're just going to have a little bit sticking out, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to set this up here just so that this is back in the right spot. Okay, now everyone's, I imagine, is going to be a little different than what I have. I'm just gonna try to play with this here a bit. Okay, and on mine, these actually have a space that they can tuck in underneath, and you want to get that in as far as possible. Okay, so now that's nice and snug in, but it'll just pull out again if the kids start to jump on it. So that's where the speed awl is going to come into place. Okay, and again, it takes a little bit of practice, and you'll notice that again, they have about 4 or 5 lines coming across, and so you're going to want to stitch in about 4 or 5 lines as well. So what's going to happen here is the speed awl, I'm not actually sure if that's what it's called, that's what I've always just called it, is just going to come here. Okay, you're going to have a little bit of thread, whoops, where's my camera, you're going to have a little bit of thread sticking out of it, and I'm just going to push down on the top of this, and I'm going to wiggle that till it now comes through. And now you'll notice my needle is sticking out, and you're just going to want to grab some of that thread, and you're just going to want to pull enough to cover at least one of those. So I don't know, maybe about 4 or 5 inches. Okay, it just depends. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to now pull that out. Okay, and you'll notice the thread is still, whoops, it's going to be a little hard for the camera to get there, is still sticking out the bottom. And I'm just going to move my awl over a little bit. I'm just going to jam it down and take quite a bit of force. Okay, and now what's going to happen is that awl is going to be through, and you're just going to pull it up a little bit, and as you pull up, it's going to create a little bit of a loop. Whoops, here. Oops, shoot. Where'd it go? Let's get rid of the spring. It's going to create just a bit of a loop there on the awl. Sorry guys, I'm trying to do this all with one hand and a puppy running around at my feet. And I'm just going to take that and I'm going to loop that through. It's going to go through that loop, and I'm going to tighten that, and then as I pull up through, it's going to create a knot. And what I'm going to do is just going to make sure it's nice and tight, and then I'm just going to go to the next one. And I'm just going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to push it down. As it pushes down, as I pull back up, it's going to create that loop again, and I'm just going to go through. Okay, and what's going to happen is I'm just going to do about 10 of these along this first stretch, and it's not a quick job. Like, just get some music and a drink or something, and don't let the kids jump on it while you're doing it. But I'm just going to keep going across, and I do about, I don't know, like I said, I do about 5 or 6 of these all the way across, and then I'll do another like 3 lines of it, just to make sure they're nice and tight. And I'll just do one more just so you can see how to finish it off. At the very end, when I pull it through this last time, This time, before I sort of finish it all, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out quite a bit of thread here on the bottom. Now sometimes I can get it, sometimes I can't, sometimes I have to get my needle nose pliers, but if you just pull enough of this thread out, it's actually really tricky to do sometimes because it gets really stuck in there. I had a little tool. Oh, I know what I can use is I can use this to grab it. Hey. And as I just grab this, pull that through, I'm just gonna pull some thread down. Okay, now what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna cut that off. Now I'm gonna have 2 threads sticking out, and I'm just gonna knot that up. Some people will take a lighter and they'll just heat the wax once it's knotted, and then they just heat the wax and then they press it, and that creates like a lock knot on that. And that's it. And once you have that first row done, and you can actually see that it's a lot stronger now than it was before, right? You can hook your spring back up and then just stretch it into place, and your spring is back on. Okay, I didn't do a very good job of that. Oh, whatever. It's actually pretty strong already. And that's just with 1 row. Time you get 3 rows done, it's gonna be nice and tight. And that spring is gonna be good as new. And you can even see on the next one, you can already see that there is some lines already starting to break apart. So what I'm probably gonna do is do a couple of quick fixes on those. So it may take you like, I'd leave yourself a good hour to do a lot of the fixes, but all of a sudden your springs are gonna be good as new, and it'll last the season for sure. Some I have done have lasted like 3 years already. So hopefully that helps you. Yeah, you don't have to hire anybody, just go and do it yourself. It's just a little bit of work. Hope it helps.